Welcome to the Behind the Vision podcast. In this episode with Matthew, we explore his time living with an indigenous tribe in Paraguay, the art of making music, and the importance of challenging ideas. Hope you enjoy the show.
No, but I haven't watched anything yet, so if you know the results, don't spoil it.
Of the World Cup?
Yeah, today.
Oh, today? Was U.S. playing
The
today?
U.S. played Iran today, and I haven't watched any of. I have no idea what happened.
Oh, dang, I don't know either. Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear the results from that, because, what is this, the U.S. is like second or third game they've been in a World Cup?
This is their third
game?
Yeah, they tied the first two, so they have to, because Iran won a game, they have to beat Iran.
Yeah. Dang.
So they have to win, so I don't know if they did or not.
Yeah, hopefully they won.
Most of my friends are Brazilian, so they're all like, Brazil won twice in a row. Brazil's won 5 World Cups.
Yeah.
So they're all complaining about players like Neymar, who are like the best in the world, and like, Neymar shouldn't play because he's not good anymore. I'm like, man, you guys won 5 World Cups. We'll take one of those guys. Like,
Brazil won 5 cups?
Yeah.
Dang.
They've won 5 times.
Yeah.
So when my Brazilian friends complain, I don't let them.
Just don't let them complain.
I just hold up with this.
Yeah, because have the
Hold up a
U.S.
0.
won a World Cup?
No,
No. Dang.
So we'll gladly take
Anything.
any of your players just for a little bit.
Yeah. Yo, you just got back from Brazil recently, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we started? Like, is this already
Yeah,
started?
we're going.
Okay.
Yeah. I just like that.
The rambling podcast.
I just like to move into things, but I mean, you recently got back from Brazil.
Man, here I am trashing all of these, all the Brazilian. Okay,
I'll cut that out.
The name? No. You don't have to cut it out. It's actually really funny because I actually have had a lot of Brazilian friends who are like angry at Neymar, and it's worth putting it in this. It's not worth putting it in the podcast, but it is because it just. It's hard to comprehend how big of a deal soccer is in a place like Brazil until you go. And then you see it firsthand. Like, I watched a game in Rio, and the public transportation, this is a playoff game, not even international, just for the national teams of Brazil. And the public transportation was like shut down, which is like, so a lot of the buses pull over and park and stop, and then like everybody's watching the games. That doesn't happen all the time, but for a huge game, it was like the whole world stops.
Just shuts down the whole country.
Stops in Brazil.
Watch.
I've never seen anything like it, not even compared to like U.S. like football, like American football here. And to get like a picture of how intense it can get, there was one incident. This is like, I've never heard it get more out of hand than this, but there was a referee in a Brazilian game who I don't remember what happened, but a player got called for a foul, I believe, and didn't like the call, and so he got in the ref's face and got very aggressive with the ref, but the ref pulled out a knife and stabbed the player. And so out of retaliation, there were fans that went down onto the field, beheaded the referee, and put his head on a pole in the middle of the field.
No.
And so the follow-up on, like, with all the crime, they had to find, like, the appendages and all this guy, like, to actually have the proper funeral.
Oh,
they had to find, like, the dismembered parts of it. Like, this is a soccer game.
Yeah. What level?
Professional soccer.
Professional?
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
And, like, it's not like this is not paint a picture of country, but what it does show is, like, this is how passionate, how like gladiator games, like emotions can trickle into this. And like, I heard that story, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, football is a big deal here, but there's a reason why you win 5 World Cups, because it's just like people bleed like football passion in Brazil. And it's not anything like spectating any sports that I've seen here. Like, American football was the closest, but I still have not seen it, like, watching the games, feel like it was that intense. But anyway, so none of that speaks for
Yeah.
That's like one crazy outlier story. But the fact that it happens at all, it's like I've never heard of anything like
You've never heard of stories like that even for like US sports either. Really?
No.
There's like people going that crazy,
that.
fans
No,
going
like
that
it really
crazy.
feels like something that would happen in like Roman gladiator
Yeah,
games.
Coliseum.
Yeah, like it feels like a Coliseum spectacle.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah,
anyways.
it's really interesting though. I was even thinking about it during the World Cup, how like football, soccer is really popular almost everywhere else except US, which it seems like it's starting to grow in the US, but still it just seems like all over the world it's like way more popular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, as well as the metric system.
Yeah. A lot of other things probably too.
We're behind in soccer in the metric system.
Yeah. Bet you've gone to Brazil a few times, right?
Yeah, so that was this most recently when I went was my third trip.
Yeah. And when was your first trip there?
My first trip was 3 years ago, and it started because I was in South America first in Paraguay. So I worked with an indigenous tribe called the Ache in Paraguay, and then because it was a border country, just went to Brazil afterwards, because Brazil is a place where you can go and you don't need a visa. They just stamp your passport and that's it. So there's no fee for a visa or anything. You can just go. It's very, very easy to extend your visa. So you could stay upwards of 6 months for like the extension is not expensive. It's like $20 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So it's a very easy country for people from the States to get to without having to do very much or in terms of visa requirements, what you need to fill out. So, but I started in Paraguay. I worked with a group of missionaries. I was mainly doing video stories when I was there, and so this tribe was the Ache community that I was at was called Puerto Barra. It was like 250 people that lived there, and 40 years ago they lived completely as hunter-gatherers. So all of their food resources, everything was collected, hunted,
Whatever they
in the Atlantic, from the Atlantic rainforest ecosystem. So they hunted like capuchin monkeys, different types of monkeys, tapir, like the big mammals.
Tapir,
kind of like the funny-looking snout. I don't know if you've ever seen one. You have to look up it.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll show you a picture later.
Picture or something.
Yeah.
Are they like anteater looking things?
They look like, they kind of look like a big anteater, and they can be huge. So, jaguars as well, though I didn't hear a ton of stories about actually like deliberately going to hunt them, but there were certainly lots of stories of encounters with jaguar, and there were a couple when I was there as well. I never saw one, but they're very reclusive and they hide really well in the forest, but saw lots of tracks. I heard one once in Brazil, but in Paraguay I never saw one. I just knew from the people that I was going back on forest treks with. They saw them a couple times and pointed out tracks, and heard them on a few occasions. So it's pretty close to our campsite, which is
Did you ever get
different.
to go out and hunt with them?
Yes, but it was very interesting to see their reaction, because they didn't get anything the time we went hunting. And I've never quite experienced a reaction, because a lot of the culture, 40 years ago, especially, and into the past, hunting was the prime responsibility of, being a man, in the community. To be a good hunter was like one of your first responsibilities. And so if you didn't get anything on a hunt, it was disappointing and embarrassing.
Your wife dumps you.
Maybe, yeah. You're risking it. I don't know. Yeah. But so I've never had a reaction of such like feelings of people who came back empty-handed from a hunt, of like almost like to tears, like just a sadness of we let our community down, and they don't live that way anymore. Presently, their income is from agriculture, from like soybean harvesting. So it's more modern, like agricultural equipment that they've learned how to use because they know a trade language now, and so that's what most of their income comes from. They've had training from this missionary family who's worked there for and partnered with them for 40 years, and so that was like really amazing to see, because otherwise they wouldn't have had an option like to build an income. They would have probably ended up being taken advantage of by someone who by renting out their land to other people. Often indigenous groups rent out their land and then they get paid not very well, or sometimes in alcohol. I've seen in other places where they really get taken advantage of. Or a lot of them end up growing like marijuana back in the forest reserves, and that's all connected to the Brazilian cartel. And once you start, it's really hard to get out of. So they've achieved some alternative way of providing an income through soybean agriculture, and it's only because there's some people who decided to help train them over the course of 40 years of knowing them.
That's cool.
And that's very uncommon, like to see that kind of day-to-day, like year by year partnership over the long haul is really rare for me to see with all of like the nonprofits or NGOs or different groups that I've worked with. To commit to a group of people for that long is 100% abnormal.
Probably helps them just continue like doing what they're doing, living their life the way they want to live it.
Well, at least even being able to survive at all, is part of it too. And again, being able to stand on your own 2 feet so that you're not taken advantage of by other people. If you don't have the knowledge of knowing how to adapt and how to change as the world changes around you, and you can't live the same way anymore because of there wasn't space for that in the Atlantic rainforest ecosystem. It's been dwindled down and fragmented. It's 5% of what it was before. It used to be a third of the size of the Amazon.
Okay.
So you just can't roam like that anymore. All of the land is occupied by people who made agreements to purchase the land, using their trade language and all of these things with the legalities. So it's just not, they just don't own a large percent of the land. So this community, the land that they owned, was actually donated to them by this missionary family as they raised money for it, if I understand correctly from their story.
So the farmland was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the fact that they have land at all through an investment was also part of this 40-year partnership that happened. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have had anything.
Yeah. What happens after the end of the 40 years? Do they keep it going, or?
Oh, well, no. I mean, they still have it.
Oh, okay,
now.
okay.
It was 40 years ago that the partnership first started.
Okay.
And that was when the Ache tribe was completely still living within the forest. So the grandparents of this community still remember that way of life. And so all of the stories that they have, when I had chances to talk to them, are all like from that lifestyle, which is completely different from what we know, or what you and I have ever experienced or lived.
Yeah. What was it like talking with them? What was that experience?
Very different, because the young people haven't lived that lifestyle, and the grandparents have. So depending on who you talk to in the community, you'd have completely different stories. But I think there were a lot of surprises for me. One, how hard it is. Like I didn't talk with a lot of people, and maybe I have an incorrect understanding of this, but from what I remember, or the conversations that I had, I don't believe I had a conversation with someone who would want to return to that lifestyle again. Now they can't, but as far as like actually a longing to go back, there's some things that are there, and yes, but as far as if someone actually making that step to do something like that is, I didn't hear that in conversation. They're very proud of what they've achieved, developing their land and becoming agricultural producers, and this step forward. And in many ways, I think a lot of people in that community have really embraced it and embraced that step forward. And again, this is all from my point of view, not from theirs. So it would come across differently if they were in the room actually sharing their stories. But I will say some of the things that were fascinating for me is I've never seen a community of elderly people as buff and as ripped as like the men and like the grandparents and both men and women than in this community. One of the forest trips that we went on, one of the grandmothers was showing the young women how to use an axe to you take a palm tree and you turn a lot of it in, like the inner parts of it, into a pulp, and you can actually suck on that on the juices from that. And you also, when you open a palm tree, often you'll find like beetle larvae, stuff like that. The best ones to eat are actually from the palm trees. The hardwood beetle larvae taste a little bit more like hardwood.
Did you try some?
Yes. So I went out with the kids and we looked for beetle larvae and ate them raw. And I got sick.
Oh, you got sick?
I did. I got diarrhea for a while. That's because I had like 15 of them or whatever. They're actually pretty good. They're kind of like the protein bars of very moist.
Yeah.
It was like Hakuna Matata.
Okay.
Like I taught some of the kids how to say Hakuna Matata, and they've never heard this phrase, but
from movie,
because it's from they hadn't seen the Lion King movie specifically, so it was just really cute watching little kids try to pronounce it. It was like Hakuna Matata. It was really adorable.
Nice.
But yeah, so we did have beetle larvae before, but just seeing like the old women in this community being capable of using like an axe, and just the biceps are huge, like bigger than mine. Was like, I was like, oh, that's because of how hard and tenuous like the life that you lived really was. Like you had to be strong in order to keep up with that kind of way of life.
Yeah, they're all just trying to survive. They're almost willing to do kind of whatever it takes to make survival achievable.
Yeah, and when you're moving around the forest, carrying firewood, it's like, yeah, they were very strong people.
How long did you
amazing
hang out with
at
them
climbing
for?
trees as well, especially even still like the young kids, and everything was like, yeah, like really impressive, especially like palm trees and stuff like that.
Did you try to climb any trees?
I did.
You did?
I was not. They've had this game that they play as well where they'll go up a tall tree that's a little bit flexible, and they'll go all the way to the top with like 2 or 3 people, and the tree will start to bend, and they'll just dangle from the tree as it bends down. Sometimes like 30 feet, 35, 40 feet there, and the tree just all pulls down, and then once they get to the forest floor, they let go, and the tree goes swinging back up. But it's just so funny, everybody cheers.
Yeah,
but
that'd be wild.
Just the type of fun that I had in the forest. The best. Sorry, I could go on for a long time, but the best honey I've ever had in my entire life, I've never had anything like it, was in the Atlantic rainforest. There's a specific bee that makes honey in hardwood trees in the rainforest, and they're hard to it's hard to cultivate the bees in like boxes or like boxes with hives, because of the specific type of hardwood that they colonize. And so this honey tasted like it was infused with like limes and orange juices.
Oh wow!
It was like a citrus flavored, like tasting honey. And so like traveling or like new experiences, sometimes there's a lot of things that you can do that are very like touristy and like more common, like tourist things. And this was truly something that had an experience like this. I'm like, I can't get this anywhere else. I can't buy it anywhere. Like, it's not sold anywhere. Like, the only place I could actually find it is in a very specific, like, hardwood tree in the middle of this forest. And to be able to find that on my own would be very hard. I'm not that good at seeing those types of things. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it was just things like that. I was like, I'll never forget it because I'll probably never experience it again. Mm. And so those things are really special for me, just what this group of people, like what they showed and their heart to pull someone in who's very different from them. And
were you able to like easily be integrated into, because like how long did you stay with them for?
I stayed for like 4 months.
4 months? How was that being?
Or like 3 months, yeah.
Were you living with them for those 4 months?
Yeah, we had some forest trips, but the community that they live in, that's where I stayed. So a lot of people kind of have their own small houses that are there, and the missionary family also has a house there. So I stayed with them because one of them is he's one of the members of that family. He's my age, and so he's also very good at doing videos and telling stories. And so he's worked on a lot of documentaries. He did a whole history of their art projects, detailing all of that, compiling it into a book. Very, very creative and very blessed, and also like really has a deep care for these people. So that was his recent project, was just documenting all the art from the community and different types of things that they make, because even things like stone axes, there's a couple people there who still remember how to make all of that. Not many, but it takes a long time to make a stone axe. It takes months to make it, because they grind the head of the axe down with other stones. It's all done by hand. And so the knowledge of doing some things like that may not last forever. So there's been some ways of trying to preserve some of those things. And my friend there has been a big part of that process too. And so he just helped go with me, helped translate interviews and all those types of things. So he's just like a really sweet person and really kind. So
yeah, that's cool.
That's what got me to Brazil. Long story.
Yeah. And then so you stayed with them for 4 months, and then kind of what did you do after that period?
I left Paraguay, and then I went to Brazil. So Paraguay is like the first time I really stayed long. Technically, I had been to South America before, because I worked doing some videos for a group called Steiger that did like rock shows in Brazil. So I had met some Brazilian friends through that process, but I never really got to know them all that well. So I went back and connected with them and stayed in Brazil longer. So, and long term, they became friends of mine that I still have a lot of like music partnerships with. So I shot a music video in a favela with some of those friends before this trip. That was my other trip, which was a crazy experience and story for me, because they had to. One of the guys said, no, I don't know him. He's not one of my friends, but he had to contact like the gangs in the region so that they wouldn't shoot down my drone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang.
And it was probably more sketchy than I want to
just flying your drone.
Think about.
You want to shoot it
no,
down?
Just like as far as his connections and who he knew, a lot of stuff there I don't really want to know. Sometimes there's some wild stories from there. One of my friends in Brazil had volunteered in some of the prisons. So one of the big prisons in Sao Paulo. So Sao Paulo is a city that's 20 million people. And he had volunteered there. And because of that, he was one of the few people that had access to some of the back rooms in the prison. But those are areas that police don't even go into because it's all run by the cartels.
Oh, wow.
So what should be one of their most secure prisons in Sao Paulo is actually, pretty much just run by the cartel, and they have their offices back there. And it's like the high-ranking police officers have barbecues with the high-ranking cartel thing. So it's all like stuff like that I didn't know before going, but just some of my friends, the experiences that they've had, kind of gave me a little bit of a window into that. And so it's not that it's not likely to actually affect you while you're there, but it does.
It's like in the background type of thing.
Yeah, it's just it can just show like politically some of the things that, just in terms of some of the systemic corruption and things that that can impact life there, and is very interesting to kind of get a little bit more of a firsthand look and just to sit and listen to what some of my friends have seen or what they've experienced before, which feels very unfamiliar for me. Because like here in the US, we have our own unique set of issues and concerns and problems here. One of the ones that I have not really seen is, the idea of prisons literally being occupied by, let's say our gang leaders here, and just basically run by them like entirely.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a limit on in terms of what type of power, what types of authority that seemingly people have to actually like prevent certain actions of the cartel from like doing things, because when you have that much power and sway and influence, at times it looks like there's not that much you can do to actually say no, other than risking your life for it. Because I think I remember a story. I don't know all the details of it. I'd have to go back and look for it. But there were 10 police officers in Sao Paulo, I believe it was Sao Paulo, who were killed in retaliation by the cartel after a high-ranking member of the cartel was killed. So they closed down a lot of things in Sao Paulo and went out and just killed 10 police officers to make a statement.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine that, hearing something similar here, where if, some gang in Chicago just went out and just killed 10 police officers because they could, and it's definitely like a statement. So it's the type of thing that makes, it's very interesting for me, because when you start learning some of those things, it changes what you think about your home country, because you can kind of go to these places and travel, and a place like Brazil is immensely beautiful. There's so many things to explore. Like the nature is like, I think one of the best in the world. What have I experienced? It's very diverse, and a lot of the people have been so kind and so amazing to me. And a lot of this stuff is like in the background, and it has an impact and trickles into everything. And so when you experience that firsthand and you hear the stories from my friends, you come back here and it starts to change your outlook on how you interact in your own country.
How has it changed kind of your current outlook on things?
Yeah, for me, the reaction was when I come back here in the US, I become a little bit more skeptical, or have my eyebrows raised and asking more questions about my world. Like I stop sort of living in the US without looking at who's pulling certain strings, who's in charge of leadership, and what's their kind of game here, because there tends to be a lot of similarities, between different countries. And so like going to a different place, you could look at all this stuff in Brazil and be like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. How could this happen here? This is way out of hand. But then when you start digging and asking questions, a lot of times you start revealing similar types of things here. Like, for example, this is more of a political thing, but here in the States, it's pretty much on both parties, Republican and Democrat, that we have a huge issue with insider trading. So people take information that's not available to the public,
Mm-hmm.
and they take advantage of the people by trading on the stock market, with an information and making a lot of money from it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is routinely done. And we have the only limitation we have on this type of behavior right now is that you have to say that you did it within like 4 months or whatever it is. I think that's in the Stock Act. That's the only limitation we have.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say, you have to say that you did it within 4 months. There's not any, there's not any pushback. There's a kickback. You don't even go to jail. You don't pay a fine. Nothing.
Yeah, that's wild.
And and the reason why is because nobody wants to pass anything, because then you lose your golden ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to see those types of things, and you're like, oh, this is a lot deeper than what sometimes feels like an average person is capable of changing and fixing. And that's what it felt like when I heard some of my stories from Brazil. It's like, how can any of my friends change this? How can any president change this when you literally have to put your life on the line for that? Like, that that's the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, that's intense. So I think it's very interesting then, that would sort of say, just like coming back and you just start wondering, what are the things that I don't see here? I think when you travel, you're very curious.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask a lot of questions and get to know a different environment. And so that's
super true, because it seems like it's just human nature. You can find things that are happening in Brazil to similar things that may be happening in like the US. They're just worded maybe differently, or you can look at them differently.
Yeah.
But the goal could always be like the same. So, so you've gone to Brazil like 3 times. What keeps you wanting to go back?
Some of my friends are really talented musicians. So I have a very dear friend named Alex. He plays for a band called Medulla. We did a show for Jack Daniels when we were there, which was it was a projection screen of footage from the countryside that he had shot. So his family grew up as farmers in the outskirts of Sao Paulo, and so he just is in love with horses. Mm. It's one of the things that he likes to put in a lot of his music videos. Mm-hmm. And so he's been one of the kindest people to me, over the years in Brazil, and I've learned so much from him. And so we did some live shows together last time I was there.
Okay.
I'd never done anything like that before. And then he took me out to the countryside of Sao Paulo, where he grew up, like with his family. And so we visited some coffee plantations in Brazil, because I think Brazil's are they number one exporter of coffee?
Okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that. Neither number one or two. I think they're number one. They have hundreds of thousands of coffee plantations in Brazil. So as a kid, he used to eat coffee beans for dessert. His family didn't have a ton of money growing up, so that used to be his dessert.
Caffeinated for
just
dessert.
raw coffee beans. I don't know if you've ever had a raw coffee bean.
No, I haven't ate one. No, definitely that'd be interesting.
It tastes like a bean.
Just like straight up like black bean?
Kind of like a green bean, but more juicy and sweet.
Okay.
But it tastes like a bean.
Looks different too, right? Because I feel like a lot of people, like, when I think of coffee bean, I think of like the roasted bean. But don't they come in like a green shell? Then you have to crack them open, or are they just straight up like the green?
I just straight up ate it.
Okay.
So just like, I don't recall any shell.
Okay.
There are different types of coffee, and there's different colors as well. So it could be green, red, yellow. I don't know all the types of coffee off the top of my head, so don't quiz me. But yeah, also like connected to that coffee plantation was a cachaça distillery, which that's become a really fun thing for me to talk about. Brazil, cachaça is like their national alcohol. It's made from sugarcane. They have a lot of sugarcane. Everything here is corn syrup, but everything there is like all sugarcane. So Coke is better. Like all pop is all better. Like most of the stuff that's sweetened is all better there, because I just like the flavor of sugarcane. But cachaça is made from sugarcane. and fermented, and that's where we get the caipirinha, which is the most famous and like traditional alcoholic drink in Brazil. It's made from sugar, limes, and then they add cachaça. It's very, very simple, but it's my favorite. And there was a cachaça distillery that Alex brought me to while we were there, and it was very good. They store it in different types of wood. I think like you would I think rum is stored that way.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest.
I think, yeah. So, but the caipirinha is pretty much like what the old fashioned is like here. If you're, it's not like an old fashioned, but it's that level of like fame and what everybody kind of knows. So,
yeah, I'm gonna check my camera here quick. I lost my camera charger plug-in, so we're just gonna roll with it. I did start out like half the podcast when I started doing the podcast with like no video for quite some time. Yeah.
I look better.
Yeah. Nice. I'm just gonna put a big fat photo of your face on the screen.
Man.
But so you kind of went back to Brazil just for the friendships that you made just through the time.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
Do you think you'd ever live there?
I don't know. It's possible. There's some places that I haven't. There's some places I haven't been, but it's a huge country. There's a lot to see. It's hard to even like see the whole thing. It's massive. So I mean, you can be on a 3-day bus ride to get somewhere. As far as like if you're going pretty far north, or you know, from a place like Sao Paulo, Rio, like it's very expansive. So there's a lot of things that I haven't seen in a place like Brazil. But I think the main thing is if I lived in a place, I think I would just want to live in a place where I have really strong connections and really strong friendships that are there. So it's possible. I just don't know if I would take the plunge or not. It's still different in a lot of ways. Nothing's ever happened to me there, like major. I had some stuff that happened in Mexico, an incident with the police, getting robbed by the police in Mexico. I got robbed once in Brazil, in Manaus.
Where was it in Mexico?
Just my phone I got my phone stolen in Manaus, but
Oh, jeez.
I'd been in Brazil for a while, so I think I was a little bit more overconfident. So I just had baggy shorts, and it was just in my baggy shorts. And like you can see that from a mile away.
They grabbed in your shorts to grab your
I
phone?
got surrounded by 6 or 7 people.
Cops or?
No, thieves. And like, so they all squeezed, like somebody stepped in front of me, and then all of a sudden I couldn't move anywhere. And I was filming with my GoPro at the time that it happened, just walking around the city of Manaus. Manaus is in the Amazon. So it's one of the developed cities. It's I think 7th largest city in Brazil, but you have to fly to get there because the road going from the south into the Amazon in the north is like really hard to actually make it all the way there. It's like this muddy, dirty, dirt road that's really hard to travel.
That sounds like content, man.
You have to fly. You have to fly there. Yeah, so I was filming all this when it happened, and so I thought it was just one person, like maybe 2 people that had it. And when I went back and watched my video footage, I started counting the amount of people who were involved as I would see who would like walk beside me, who was pinning me in, and seeing everybody who's clumped together. I was like, oh, I just got robbed by 7 people.
Oh my gosh.
Who are all a part of this operation, who do this to other foreigners and tourists that are there. But I felt like I was asking for it just because I was not being smart about how I was carrying my things. So it's people that do stupid stuff like I did. They get their stuff taken because you're basically just you can like see handing it away. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, because it was easy to grab. Like when I was in Brazil last time, just for like an extra precaution, I had all my stuff like in a fanny pack tucked under the lip of my pants, just because all like my if I ever had to carry my passport around, I just don't want to take the chance, especially with like a passport or things like that. And so just keep it out of field of view. It's different, but it's a place I've had to watch my back a little bit more. Like there are real stories of stuff that happens to people, because I've had friends who've gone through stuff there. One of my friends was going to a hotel that was near Cracolandia. That's like a street in there's like a certain area in Sao Paulo where there's a bunch of crack addicts, and like the police don't really control very much there. They kind of like allowed to just be on the streets and whatnot.
It's free game.
Yeah, and so my friend had a hotel that was like close by that place, and he was in the Uber. And when he got there, his Uber wouldn't let him out. His Uber driver wouldn't let him out, and told him, it's like, I can't let you out here in good faith because I don't know if you would make it to the door. And this is like, again, not every situation is extreme, but you know that extreme things can happen because it's a local telling him that. You know, and so there are certain areas that it can be difficult if you don't know that well. It takes time, and I don't even know it perfectly, but there's certain places.
Did the guy make it? Did the guy make it to the door?
He did not stay at that hotel.
Okay.
I was very, like, this is a good friend. This is like one of my close friends. I was like pretty mad at him after he got like after I heard about it, because I'm like, why? Like, know the area that you're in, and that's kind of one of the main things too. Is there's actually quite a lot of areas that are different. Areas, it's a very big country, and everything is super diverse, and no two areas are exactly the same. And so you can definitely, there are areas that are worse than others. And so kind of knowing that and having people who tell you what are better places, you know, to go, or especially like if you're on your own or something like that, is good to pay attention to and to listen, you know, and accept people's feedback and advice and stuff like that. It's just, but it's not worth it to get a hotel in Cracolandia. More of the story. I couldn't believe it. I was pissed.
Well, that's wild. Your Uber driver would be like, can't
it wasn't me. I wasn't in the car. I wasn't even there. It was
Yeah.
just a friend of mine a close friend of mine who was traveling there.
Yeah.
And
Just like the
I was
Uber
like,
driver saying that.
you're lucky that you had an Uber driver who like
Gave a shit.
cared. Yeah, who cared about you.
Yeah.
You know, and there's like, that's what you see in even like a place that's different. There's, when stuff can happen to you, but there's a lot of beacons of light. And like, I've met a lot of people like that. And anyways, I don't know, we talked about Brazil this whole time on the podcast. But
Yeah. But I
Brazil
mean,
and Paraguay,
it's something that you like clearly love to do. And it's
yeah.
when I first heard of you is when you started working with Devin on like video stuff. And it seemed like that was something that you love to do, is just like travel. And you've been to Brazil a few times, which is really cool. I mean, I'd love to go there sometime. Go to Sao Paulo.
What are some of your adventures or
Some places I've been to Thailand, Bali, Mexico. Thailand and Bali was all in like one trip. So it was like a month-long thing. And did 2 months in Thailand and 2 months in Bali. And it was wild. It was so fun. Because I was, I think, 21 at that time. And I've never traveled out of the country by myself before.
Yeah.
So I went from like Minneapolis, California, all the way to China. Had a connecting flight from China to Thailand. And just like that whole trip to even get to Thailand it's just so like eye-opening. Because you don't really like know how other people live their lives until you go over there. You think there's other people on the side of the world, but you don't really like, oh, this is just people in my state, in my city. Like, that's all you think about until you go over to a different country and you're like, wow, there's lots of people here, you know? So it was, a super eye-opening experience. It was really fun.
Yeah.
In Thailand, we went to, because I went with my coworker at the time. So it's kind of like we met up in Thailand, in Bangkok, And then we made the trip through Thailand a bit, different cities, went to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Koh Lanta. And then we split up from there and we kind of did our own thing in Bali. So it was fun.
How do you feel like a trip like that like changed you? Because usually people see stuff and experience things that changes them.
Yeah.
Was there specific stuff from those trips that?
Yeah, it's probably just a way you maybe go about your life that you feel maybe changed you, because I mean, you just think about things differently knowing that there's a lot more people on this earth than just like people in your state or like people in your country. There's a lot of people that live different lives, much different than people in the US. And sometimes I feel like you can learn things from that. Because one thing that's pretty nice about traveling, and I don't get this from just being in like the current state I'm in a ton, is like when you travel, you're able to almost look back at like the life you're living now in like your state and like figure out what you maybe want to change about it or something new you want to do with that. And that's something that I kind of get from traveling, is like you're just a little more open-minded in that way.
Did you get a bunch of authentic Thai food?
Yes.
Thai food is amazing.
Yeah, that's the Thai street food is great.
I've not had like
super
actual Thai food. Was it different than what you expected? Like, because if you had Thai food here, was it different? Was it different there when you actually are like in the country compared to what you had here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's way different. I've had Thai food here too, and it's fine. It's just different over there. I guess like there's a distinct way a lot of them make pad Thai, and it seems like a lot of people do make pad Thai differently. But I mean, you go over there and everything's cheap. The best food is the street food. Save money that way. You don't have to go to restaurants.
Okay, but if you had to pick Thai street food versus Mexican street food,
Oof.
you can only
I feel like Thai street
you
food.
can only pick one.
I feel like Thai street food.
Really?
Yeah, because
Mexican street food is my favorite.
Okay. I mean, I love Mexican food too.
Like tacos and tortas. I was there in like Playa del Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the pineapple, when you get pineapple slices and everything, and you can eat all the way through the middle of the pineapple and the whole thing is juicy.
Yeah.
But tacos,
I mean,
Mexican taco, that's like my number one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't had like too much Mexican street food. I've had a little bit. I had a lot when I was in Thailand, and I mean, it was so good and super cheap.
Where did you go to Mexico? Where were you in Mexico?
I've been to like Tulum. That was one spot, and then I've been to Ixtapa, Zihuatanejo a few times.
So you were like there?
In Tulum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Had some street food.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to restaurants.
Otherwise I would make you go back, and then we then we go together. We just fly there just for a taco. I would probably fly to Mexico just for street tacos, just one day.
Yeah,
actually,
I mean it's good food. Yeah, I mean other places you want to travel to? Like, do you think you're gonna travel at all the end of this year or next year?
Let's see. I don't know. I've never been to Asia.
Okay.
I've never been to Antarctica. I've never been to Australia.
Nice.
So pick one of those three for me.
Definitely Asia.
I've also never been to Alaska. And when I look at a map of the US and I just look at Alaska on a map, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why haven't I been to this place in like United States? Of all states to pick to go travel to, by far, I think Alaska would jump to my number one. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just insanely big. So Alaska is a place that I think would be really fun. I had a cousin who passed away in his 20s, but he used to work on some of the fishing charters up there. Kind of like the similar types of boats that were on like Most Dangerous Catch. these types of things, and he loved it, absolutely loved it up there. I just have never been, so I don't know if you have or not.
No, I haven't been to Alaska, but I would love to climb an actual mountain. You know, I mean, but the biggest mountain in the U.S. is in Alaska. It's Denali, I think. Or
To be honest, I don't know the name.
But yeah, I think climbing a mountain in Alaska would be dope. But just traveling there too would be cool.
Do you ski, snowboard?
Snowboard a little bit.
So you did a lot of skiing and snowboarding like here in Minnesota. Okay.
We could take a trip to Alaska
or Colorado.
Colorado.
So yeah, because if you do that, if you like mountains or like even snowboard or ski at all, I'm like, yeah, we have to go find you a mountain. I wish we built one. It's like actually like, I wonder how if we could figure out the technology of how they built the pyramids. I would love to build a mountain in Minnesota.
Yeah,
for snowboarding.
That'd be awesome.
There's some weird theories out there, like that like priests moved it with sound, moved these giant blocks. It's very interesting just to see what kind of ideas people come up with to try to understand how these impressive things were constructed.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch people think outside of the box with everything, but I think we need some outside of the box thinking to build a mountain in Minnesota that changes our quality of skiing and snowboarding. Yeah. Because I went to Colorado and skied or snowboarded Keystone. And I couldn't like do it anymore when I came back. And like it destroyed like Minnesota for me because everything here is like small. It's like everything starts to feel like a bunny hill. And it's like the saddest thing that ever happened because I had a season pass last winter and I went almost every weekend. And for the last 2 years I haven't gone at all. Just because of my one time
just ruined
that I went to like a mountain in Colorado. So yeah, you might ruin your times here, but
probably would. I mean, I haven't gone for a little bit.
We should go.
Yeah, it would be fun. I'd be down. Have you seen Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix?
No.
Okay.
What is that?
You're just talking a lot about pyramids, and I'm really curious if you've seen that, but it's just a newer show on Netflix. We're trying to think of, forgot what the author's name of Fingerprint of the Gods, I think is one of the books he created. Graham Hancock, I think, and he basically has a TV show he created on Netflix that explores the wonders of the world, and he tries to push the date back for when he thinks like advanced human civilization actually existed on Earth, because they think after the Ice Age that's when people started to begin farming and they started to like be more advanced in that way, but he's trying to like push that back in the Ice Age. And basically in the Netflix show, he's kind of almost proving his theories that the human civilization was much more advanced beyond the Ice Age through different pyramids that they built and constructed. I mean, it's amazing when he's like showing the different pyramids, but then they also align to like different star, like a single star pattern in the sky. And there's different aligned to different like the summer and fall axes and different terminology like that. I don't completely know, but just like the understanding that people had back then about how the earth like rotates and its alignment with like the sun and the stars is, I mean, it's insane. It's stuff that, I mean, would take us a good amount of time to even like think of. And these people were doing it from like way back when.
It's kind of weird too, because not to go super deep into it, but sometimes our own education or some of the biases that we've had in education sometimes leave us with traces of certain ideas that we maybe haven't challenged or didn't even realize we had. And I think one of them, even on the intelligence or sophistication of ancient human history, is one of them, because sort of Darwinian... Oh, you're just grabbing the... Darwinian evolution kind of paints a portrait or a picture of earlier civilizations to make them look very primitive. And I wouldn't have a detailed analysis of unpacking all of that, or I don't. But it seems like when you go back to a lot of these periods of history, you start to find more and more details that reveal a high level of intelligence, though with different types of technologies available. And so looking for almost this this kind of like evolutionary sort of lineage of, less intelligent to more intelligent is a very interesting question, because what if that's not actually accurate? What if intelligence was your beginning point, and not actually more of a development? What does that communicate, or what does that mean or say about earlier peoples? And so even like Darwinian evolution, how it was extrapolated, was used in pretty racist ways too, because a lot of the photographs and pictures that you see in textbooks like communicate this, is that Black people, for example, are portrayed often as being more ape-like or more monkey-like, and so though that's more primitive. And so this idea of progressing intelligence or something like that from a primitive past, a lot of Black people, just by the nature of how it was interpreted with evolutionary theories, must be closer connected to less intelligent forms of life. And I'm like, where's the evidence, the actual evidence for these types of things? Is you have to ask those questions when you make those types of claims. But it's like really interesting when I see pictures like that, because I'm like, man, it's like some of the most racist stuff that I've ever seen, Mm-hmm. Even about like African history or things like that, or how it can be portrayed. And I'm like, well, what if we're not correct about this idea? And it's just, some of that stuff is eye-opening when you see things like that. I'm like, really? Like, yeah. That seems like a pretty interesting conclusion. Mm-hmm. A pretty interesting conclusion when everything is said and done. But I think the whole point is like, what if you're wrong? And if a lot of history starts to reveal an increasing level of intelligence, which I think there's a lot of things that are there that show that. For me, I think one of the things that's remarkable is that one of the positive things is that it shows a wide history of the value of people and the value of beings, and even like as far as like the sacredness of things, or that there's a certain intelligence and a complexity to it that belongs to humanity. And if you increasingly see those types of patterns in history, it's harder to strip humans from that. And so everywhere you see sophistication and complexity and intelligent thinking, the human race carries on those things. And so from all the corners of the earth and all of the nations, that's what people embody. So like, I would, that's an area that I would love to learn more about, because I feel like in some ways I'm starting to question the fact that I may have been slanted or given an education kind of masqueraded as sciences, but an actual outlook about people that, yeah, it might actually have some bents to it that are just not even appropriate, and it actually might have been outright racist with how it was interpreted as well, and I didn't even realize it, and just sort of went along with it, or didn't question it as aggressively as I could have. But those are things that I'd actually love to ask more about and look into, and I just have not. Not that I'm not an advanced historian. Yeah, or I'm not a very knowledgeable historian about ancient people groups and all of their technologies and different achievements and things like that. But I find it to be fascinating.
Yeah, no, it'd be really cool. I think there's so much to be explored with things. I mean, there's so much that have been lost just through the hundreds of years of whatever humans have created. Like, I know there's been like a lot of books that have burned. in the past, and it's like all that information and knowledge is not carried us up into this point, and it's like, what have we lost, and what have others maybe even like skewed the information maybe to like benefit themselves or to just communicate it differently. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to travel. I've never seen a pyramid. I've been to, I mean, in Tulum, they have like some pyramids, which is really cool to see. But
Like the Mayan, the Mayan ruins.
Yeah, I guess I don't think those are pyramids, but
I think they used to be temples.
Okay.
I think for the most, I don't. Again, I do not know history, but I knew it was interesting because they did some diving in the cenotes. Because like a lot of the Mayan Riviera in that area, the freshwater comes from the aquifer. The cenotes are basically these open, I think they would be called an open aquifer. I think that's would be accurate. But a lot of those are like made of limestone as well. So like there's a lot of these caves that get formed. So they have this like underground like network of kind of these underground rivers that are, I think it's the largest underground network of rivers in the world, actually. I think is in the Mayan Riviera. But all of the fresh water comes from those cenotes. But there's, even with, I know that, I mean, some of those places are places where people are like sacrificed, like to the gods and like thrown to the depths of the cenotes, which is no laughing matter, or anything like that. But so I don't know a lot about the place, but I remember when I was there were some stories that we read about that were like that, but I couldn't imagine that. You know, like you know, sort of this whole idea of actually like sacrificing human blood, you know, to appease a god or a deity, and like doing this, you know, to like your family members or to your own children or something like that is, you know, I just it's unfathomable for me to like imagine that kind of thing. And
so it's like similar, you know, it could be like similar passion to like when you first brought up the Brazil soccer team, like just that passion for that thing just drove them to like do something.
Yeah, I don't know like hardly anything about the history behind it.
Yeah.
But it just had come up because of the diving that we did in the cenotes, learning a little bit about those things. But that was some of the most beautiful diving that I've ever done. So I mean, for people who travel, who enjoy that kind of thing, I would highly recommend it. We did our PADI certifications there, and you can actually train in the cenotes. So rather than doing like pool training, like here you can actually just do all your certifications in the beautiful cenotes, which are crystal clear. They're crystal clear because of the limestone, how the limestone purifies the water, and it's just beautiful. There was one we were in that's connected to the ocean, so it's one of the few saltwater freshwater hybrid cenotes. So that one has some fish that come back and swim through it and everything. So that these huge tarpon that we would just swim a couple feet away from.
Dang, that's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Tarpon. I saw a lot of tarpon in Florida, but this is like the first time that I actually like got to swim with them. So
yeah. What do tarpon look like?
They are they're like a shimmering silver. So they're kind of like a white silvery fish, pretty like how would you describe it? Like just fairly thin, but I mean they're like long.
Okay, long.
Kind of like long, like more like a long shape. They're not like a fat, like a rounded fish. Yeah, kind of more like that kind of. Not quite as slender as a barracuda, but it's a longer fish. It's like just really sparkling silver. But yeah. So that was fun. Have you ever gone diving before?
I've not been scuba diving, but I've been like snorkeling and stuff.
Okay, where was that? Was that in Mexico too? In like Tulum?
I think I've been snorkeling maybe just like a little bit in Mexico, but the coolest spot was probably in Thailand. And I saw a squid.
Oh.
I saw like a little, like
Okay.
a group of little squid when I was snorkeling, and it was so cool.
Did they ink you?
No, they didn't. They didn't think me. But no, it was so cool because they're just like these little things, and I mean that was the first time I've seen like a squid up in person. They're like clear too.
How big was it? Like 10 feet?
They're probably like a soda can
12 feet.
size. No, it wasn't.
Here I am talking. I'm talking in feet, not in the metric
It's
system.
like little things. But yeah, they're pretty small, so that was really cool. I've seen like eels snorkeling. That's pretty freaky. Just
Like the you know the type of eel? Was this like a moray eel type of a thing?
it was
Like
like
the ones that are
blackish
with the big
looking.
teeth?
I wasn't super close to it. I could just like see it moving on the floor and stuff. So
Yeah, and then there's the ones. I think there's the ones that are like. There's like a certain. I think it's a fish. Actually, I don't think it's. Well, yeah. I know there was one when we were in the Amazon. There is a type of. I don't remember if it's, but I think there's a type of eel there, and it's like fatally, like can
Electric?
fatally, yeah, electrocute you.
that's wild.
There's videos of like, I can't remember if this is in some of the videos are from Brazil or not, but there's videos of caiman eating them and being electrocuted to death.
Oh. There's
by
actual
these,
videos
yes,
of
by
those?
by these
Oh,
eels or
no.
fish or I don't remember their specific species.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I don't believe it was this kind of thing, but
Yeah, hopefully not.
probably not the best type of thing to just be curious about and grab onto.
Yeah.
I saw a green moray eel in Mexico.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to approach one.
Yeah.
I saw some barracuda.
Okay.
It's like a school of barracuda.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And then a loggerhead sea turtle. And so that was about the size of you.
Okay. Yeah, sea turtles are sweet to see in the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
I probably can't share my story from Brazil. I can now, but I did a terrible thing when I was in Brazil.
Was it the beer can video?
No, I never posted any type of videos.
Okay.
You know, related to this because I was 100% like in the wrong. But I grew up catching turtles, so it's one of the things I do a lot here is I play with snapping turtles, or like catch
I saw your GoPro.
snapping turtles.
Snapping
I did put a
turtle.
GoPro on a snapping turtle, and
That's cool.
actually that's what I'm proud of.
That's cool.
Because it is the best snapping turtle footage is like underwater footage with a snapping turtle on the internet. It's not a famous video. It's not popular or anything like that. But because this Minnesotan lake that I did that in is very clear, you can actually see everything that's going on. Most of the times it's really muddy because they tend to be in muddy waters. But so I've caught a lot of snapping turtles, and it's not, they're very predictable. They like when you go after them, they go head straight down into the sand because they're terrified of you, and then they just sit there, and so you just grab them by the back of the shell or under their plastron. They kind of where their feet are, they almost have like a handle, so you can just grab underneath that too, and it's just like a turtle handle. But they always go head first down into the weeds to try to get away from you, and you just go up behind them and just grab them. So I've never had a single issue with snapping turtles or getting bit or losing a finger. It's just being careful the way that I hold them and everything. But
What about the sea turtle?
so I grew up catching a lot of turtles here.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt like it was in my blood. And actually, when I went to Brazil, I didn't realize that all of the species of sea turtles are endangered. All 6 of them. So they're all on the endangered list. On some of them, I don't know each category for it. But the first time I saw a sea turtle, my instinct to just want to catch one like kicked in.
Yeah.
So I was in Cabo Frio in Brazil. It's on the eastern coast, and I saw the sea turtle and I went into the ocean, and I didn't think I was gonna get it, but they're actually slower than you would think. And so I grabbed a sea turtle and I just wanted to take like a little video of it on the beach, and the locals were just so mad at me, and probably rightfully so. Knowing better knowing better now. And so like they were just, oh, I can't believe it. They were just like, so they were very mad at me, and I wasn't gonna like do anything to the turtle. I was just gonna set it back free. But the fact that I did it at all, I could probably get fined for it. I was just like, turtle. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I was with a Brazilian friend too, and I can't believe he let me do it, but he
didn't even say anything.
Probably wasn't anything stopping me at that point. I had one one goal in mind. So just a piece of advice, don't do that.
No, when I was in Nicaragua with Devin and Tia.
Don't do that. That's not good.
Our taxi cab driver was talking about turtle eggs and how like valuable they are there. And I mean, people will buy turtle eggs off of people. They're super expensive, and they're like, of course, illegal. Like, they don't want you taking these turtle eggs. But he says like one day of the year, I think, they just let people like go get their eggs and then come back, just so it's not such a big deal, I guess, the rest of the year. But yeah, those turtles are definitely protected a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you when you travel, do you work much?
So I did most of my projects were volunteer. Some of them were ended up turning into work projects. And this is another fun thing too, is different people find different passions and different hobbies. And for me, I just started shooting videos for fun and on different stories that I just thought were interesting. But some of the projects that came out of it ended up being paid ones. And so I was hired to do some projects on forest reserves up in the Amazon and different places that they do research there. And I did a piece kind of connected with Purple Martin Conservation Association as well, a little bit with Disney conservation as well on purple martin migration trends. So I was not a researcher. I was not a scientist. Yeah, they're birds. So this was fun because most of the purple martins here live in human built habitats. So people make purple martin birdhouses, and the overwhelming majority, it's almost 100% of the purple martin population flies back here. What do they look actually like? live in houses that people make. Mm-hmm. And so it's mainly like the middle-aged and elderly people here in the U.S. that build them. That younger people don't do this stuff as much, but they almost entirely live in these human birdhouses. But we saw there an island of 300,000 of them, possibly more than that, in the Amazon rainforest. So it's a place that David Attenborough had been at. Ooh. Doing a video on that topic.
Hey, that's cool.
In a very similar area, I think 10 years or something like that, or before I was there. And so the researchers were playing his video and whatnot, and I was there doing a story on a similar thing. And
you start trying to talk to him and do
it sounded like the sound of the bird sounded like a jet plane, whooshing by you when they all come to roost in this island because there's so many of them. And so they would tag them and put bands on. They do radio tracking, but they collected the birds by hand for tagging because there were so many of them on this island that they would just reach out and just
all 300,000 of them.
Well, no, they didn't grab 300,000 birds, but all of the 300,000 birds were on this island.
Oh, okay.
In the trees and whatnot. So you just float up into it on a boat, and to tag and ban certain birds, they would just grab them.
Dang.
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
They were everywhere.
The bird freak out at all, or just chill about it?
Oh, it probably didn't want to be captured, but all of the birds were released. So, and didn't have a single issue with any of the birds actually. So they would tag them and then they would all get released, and I had no problems with that. But yeah, I'm not sure they wanted it, but it was really interesting. They found a tag on one of the birds that they actually like grabbed from the tree. They found a tag on it, and it's never happened before. Nobody's ever found a tag on a purple martin in Brazil, and it was from Connecticut.
Oh, jeez.
So, but one of the random birds that they grabbed from this island already had a tag on it, and so we took bets on where it was from, and I lost, and so I had to do crap ton of push-ups. What?
Did anyone win that?
Yeah, the guy who I bet with.
You won? You got Connecticut?
Yeah, and that's because he works closely with Purple Martin research all the time, and so he knows the colors of the bands and what states that they're from.
You probably so his guess,
yeah. So don't bet with experts is the moral of the story. But it was fun. But there was a chance it could have been from like Minnesota.
Yeah,
from our home state, because they do migrate that far.
What do those birds look like?
So like this is funny. In Portuguese, they're called andorinha azul. It's like the blue swallow, I think it translates to. So we call them purple martins. They call them blue swallows. I actually think they're more blue than they are purple. But they're the biggest swallow that we eat. And so they're fairly large for a swallow, and they're bright, shimmering blue.
Okay.
So
where are those located in Minnesota? I don't know if I've seen
everywhere.
Everywhere?
Probably got one flying around in your house right now. No.
Is that pet
if you see, so if you're driving around and you see like a teardrop shaped bird feeder, a white like teardrop shaped bird feeder, most likely that's a purple martin house.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I've seen them before. I just don't remember.
They're weird looking. They're like alien looking bird feeders.
Okay.
So now that you know that picture, you'll probably see one somewhere.
Yeah, maybe I'll see one tomorrow.
They're all over the state.
Okay.
All over the U.S. pretty much.
Yeah.
So some of those ended up being, some of the volunteer projects turned into paid projects when everything is said and done. And then more recently started doing like remote video editing. And so I started on the most recent trip that I had.
Nice. Is that what you'd ideally like to be doing? Just for work and stuff? It's like video editing, or I know you do like music stuff too.
Yeah, so music is, I don't know if I would do it for work. I think partially because it's so hard to do it as a viable career. It's unless you're like doing a lot of shows and like selling a lot of merch and stuff like that, the whole streaming game is pretty difficult to do well, because I paid for my college off of YouTube streams, and so like that was possible. Just like the college loans that I had, that was possible. But I had one track on Spotify that did like 500,000 streams.
Oh no!
And that was worth like nothing. I don't have a single royalty payout from that, because it's just like it's nothing.
How does
it's
that
probably
work?
less than like $20. It's because it's just the streams are worth very little. It's probably like how it is on TikTok or something like this. So it's just the actual like payouts at the end of the day to artists is not a lot. So it just means you have to be in the top 1% with your streaming game for that to really like do a lot. Like you really have to have quite a lot of million or perhaps a billion streams to really be making a significant amount. I knew an artist in Brazil. She has, I think, like well over 100 million streams, and her like monthly income was like from streams was like less than $2,000 USD.
Okay. So it's not a lot.
I like, and that's not specific. I don't remember the exact math and numbers on it, but those things don't encourage like me embarking into a musical career. So music is something I do because I love it. And so it's something that I'll do anyway, even if I'm not making money from it. I like the friendships that come out of it, the connections, and I just can't stop. And so I think that's a sweet thing for me, because I don't know if you have anything like this, but hobbies where you find flow in, where flow is like, it's hard to disrupt your focus because you're just in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
That music is that for me. And so it's one of the things that I get lost in the most. And for bad or for good, I feel like just lose sight of all reality. It's like what it feels like when you watch entertainment just kind of like disappear for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like and just relax is like what music feels like.
Mm-hmm. Just like the time disappears.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even eat sometimes. Like I forget to eat.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. For me, so I don't know if you have anything like that where you feel like you find like your flow in that you just kind of get lost in.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
what are those things? What is something like that for you?
Yeah. For work, I would say definitely find my flow. Especially if it's something that I just need to like figure out almost. Like you probably feel this with music too, where it's like there's some end goal that you kind of want with it, whether that be creating a song, or for me it's helping someone with a website. It's like you have this end goal, now you just figure it out and learn and like try to make your way to whatever you're trying to create or achieve with it. And I mean, for me, that's, I do a lot of developing stuff. So that could be like building a website or helping someone solve something with like their Shopify store or something. So yeah.
Right. How much have you explained on other podcasts of what you have your teeth sunk into?
Not a whole lot. I mean,
Really?
this is because
Okay.
yeah, I haven't just a little bit, I would say. I mean, I recently moved the jump to freelance, doing like Shopify development and
Yep.
just like helping entrepreneurs grow their business online. So that's something more recent, but I've been doing, e-commerce, Shopify development for like a few years now. And I was originally part of a startup for a few years and then moved into freelance.
Sure. Can you explain more about that? Because I think like what I would hear from that is most people that when I hear they're doing Shopify stuff, they're trying to sell their own products or their own goods and services.
Yeah.
Do you do that at all, or you mainly just help you help other people streamline like their websites to do their e-commerce?
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, I'll mainly just partner with entrepreneurs and help them kind of figure out their Shopify stuff. I'll also do some Klaviyo, which is email and SMS. So it's when I say like e-commerce and stuff, I've been involved a little bit. Like I started a clothing brand that was e-commerce, so that was, selling like clothing. And I've done a little bit of that, but it's kind of the other side to e-commerce where it's like you're not the person selling the goods, you're not the entrepreneur, you're helping other entrepreneurs grow their business, which has been pretty fun so far.
So Devin told me that you are one of the most focused people that he's ever met. What's your secret for being focused? Maybe it's that you just love it to death. That might be it, but have you always been that way? Does it depend on the thing? That's what he said.
Yeah.
So if I'm putting words in in your mouth, then you can stop me. But
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just I can be very routine within, like, I've just built habits over the years that I've just built into my routine to where the point that I'm like, this is kind of my habits I've built and I don't want to let go of those habits because just of the way it makes me feel and how like positive I feel those habits are, because I feel like when you have your sight set on something and you really want to achieve it, like Devin's also a super focused dude as well, one of the most focused individuals I know. And that's where I feel like Devin and I maybe really got along. Whereas like Devin and I, we both dropped out of college and it's like we just have to make this thing work almost. Cause Devin and I, we both don't want to, we didn't want to have like a normal corporate kind of job. We wanted something that was in line with our passion. And I feel like when you want to be doing something more full time that's within your passion, you have to be willing to like focus pretty hard on it. Because I feel like it just doesn't come easy. Because there's a lot of people that might have a passion for something, but they don't maybe give it all they could, or maybe they're not willing to see the investment all the way to their end point of like learning or doing things they don't want to do. So I feel like as long as, you know, you're focused on the end point and you really want it, you know, just keep alignment with that and stay true to like your habits, your principles, and keep really good people around you. Like I live in a house with really good people that they all are doing something they're passionate about, which is really awesome. So, yeah.
And you pretty much work more so on your own with the stuff that you do?
On my own, like don't have a team of...
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is on my own. Actually, starting Black Friday to early January, there's another guy that lives in his house, Chase, who you might meet later tonight. He's actually a designer. He's done a lot of stuff within Klaviyo, which is like email SMS stuff for brands. And we actually were able to partner on a e-commerce brand called ProEDU. And they sell a lot of like photography and videography, software, courses, assets. So I've been able to work with like Chase and a few other people, but it's not like a thing that I have a lot of people I work with.
Yeah. Is that, because I know for, you know, different people thrive with different things. Is it sometimes hard being like alone, like in a lot of those endeavors, or is for you, is that actually something that fits like really well with your, like you would prefer it that way?
Yeah, I kind of like it. I think having worked with people, I feel like the less people, because when working with people, you probably experience this too with like the music and video stuff. It's like, it's sometimes tough to work with people if you don't have the same thought process around like work, or if you get someone you're working with and maybe they have like a really big ego or they're just really difficult to work with, it just makes work not fun at all. So I feel like if you could find a few people to work with on stuff, that's great. But I mean, I feel like if you can work by yourself but be around people, that seems almost ideal, because, you know, you don't have to necessarily go to anyone for things, or you don't have to manage people. And you can kind of just pursue your own path that way. How do you feel about working with other people?
I don't like people.
You don't like
I'm
people?
I'm kidding. I wish I lived under a rock, all exclusive by myself with a couple of books and nobody. That's not true at all. I tend to be a little bit more extroverted than introverted when everything is said and done. So I probably prefer to work on a project with someone than alone if I could help it. But a lot of the stuff I've kind of done. A lot of the projects I've done solo. Not always, but it's way more fun to have like a really good friend on, like that I'm working on something with.
Yeah.
Way prefer it, but I've never done stuff with like huge teams.
Okay.
Yeah, but one of my pet peeves though is like when you're working on a project with someone who is on a very different pace than you.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably my number one pet peeve. Like when you carry a project and you do like, you work hard on something 90% and it's 90% of the way there or 95% of the way there, and you just need those couple last things, and it like takes forever just to finish like 2% of the work.
Mm-hmm.
That is my biggest pet peeve.
And just not being able to get it done.
Yes. Because of that one. It's like finishing a puzzle, but you can't finish the puzzle because you don't have like the two pieces. And just like blocks and like work projects when you have multiple people involved and the things that are left to accomplish are small things, but you need them to actually finish the thing. I hate that. I hate it. So I hate it when it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Kind of like in an efficient way, where you feel like the effort is kind of like matched. It's like my nightmare. It's one of my least favorite things.
Yeah, that's like the trade-off to working with people, because they have their work schedule and you have your work schedule.
Yeah.
And it's probably not the exact same as yours, and they have different goals and motivations, and so do you. So it's almost like the trade-off for working with other people.
Yeah. I've been learning that even that happens sometimes in, on things like music or whatnot. A lot of things can stall out when you're doing different things or different projects, and it's been an interesting to navigate that and learn how to do it better. Actually, one of the number one things that taught me a lot about music and why I learned so many different things, like mixing and mastering and then producing and then writing and composing and doing melodies and becoming more rounded and everything, is because I would notice projects stall out when I didn't get the help that I needed. And so if somebody was helping you mix or helping you master and then it just was dragging out, it would happen sometimes where I'd just take the project back and I'd be like, well, I don't know everything right now, but I'm going to try to learn what I can to try to be able to accomplish more. So over time, it can be a blessing and a curse, because it can become a little bit more of a lonely journey. And so you lose, a lot of the fun and the joy of having multiple people involved. And the blessing can be you learn a lot more than you would have, and you push and learn so many more new things than that you otherwise wouldn't have even had the chance of learning, because you just had to push to do it. But yeah, there's been a lot of times on music projects where all I needed was just like something mastered. The mix is ready, everything, you just need it mastered. And depending on the person you worked with, sometimes it would take like 3 months, 6 months, or like would stall out. And I got so frustrated sometimes with specific people that were a part of it, that I'm just like, I'm going to try to find a way to do this. I'm going to learn how to do this and try to train my ears to do this better, even if I fail, my first couple passes. And I just have been surprised by that journey, because I didn't realize how hard it really was. And like to learn a new skill sometimes you think you're going to figure it out on one project, and sometimes it takes 2 years of projects to actually figure it out. And even then you're like still growing and building. And so it's sometimes interesting when you kind of go your own path and you try to learn something on your own that someone else can help you with. To get to their level, sometimes you think it's just gonna take me a week to get to the level. And sometimes you realize, there's a reason why these people are so gifted and so talented at what they do, because they've spent 10,000 hours at their craft. And that's why they're talented. It's because they've sat with this for a good chunk of their life and have dedicated themselves to it. And so but it still is my pet peeve when something stalls out on stuff that feels like, are small things that you just want to move forward. But
what's something new you're trying to learn
right now? One of the new things I'm trying to learn is how to better work with businesses on video projects. As far as like the more self-aware, or trying to be self-aware about myself, I tend to have the character flaw of being really well-rounded and talented at a lot of things, but not that great at actually selling myself and like actually getting business or projects. So you can have a lot of talent in your back pocket, but learning how to actually work with businesses and then how to market yourself I just never learned how to do it. And I was kind of bad at it. And so like that's something that I'm trying to teach myself more things in that area and grow that way. But it's very interesting, because I have the personality that I like to work on the things that I'm passionate about. Of course, a lot of people have do that as well. But so sometimes my default is that. And so I'll pick up the stuff that's volunteer or for groups or organizations that I really like working with. And then I'll forget about the whole, money side of things. And so eventually you kind of have to figure that out. But I stopped trying to be, I let go a little bit of the goal of like having my own business somewhat, because I just didn't think I had the focus to actually build it, because of the tendency that I had to actually just fall back into the things that I like to do. So I sort of rearranged my approach to just work with, even if it was sort of freelancing or whatnot, just to work with other businesses that were already established, without trying to build my own thing as much. I guess it's sort of building a freelance kind of business is kind of building your own business, but it was with a different approach of just being okay with being hired by somebody, if that's what happened. Kind of using the freelance projects that I was doing to kind of push more that way, because at the end of the day, I just don't think it's, completely running a business by myself is really what I want to do. I just don't, at this stage of my life, I haven't achieved it successfully. And so I've just been going in kind of a different route, just to work with other people and be a part of somebody else's business so that they're doing all of that. All of that side of things, which there's a risk to that because you can be fired and let go, and you're kind of at someone else's dispense. You're not really standing in that way independently on your own 2 feet as much. Maybe don't have as much say. But it's, also just trying to understand myself too, that if I haven't been successful at doing it, then maybe I can learn some things by working for other businesses first, and doing that and partnering with other businesses before I do my own venture, because I'll learn things from them
for sure
before I actually, do that. So it's, I know we've been talking for a lot here, but even doing projects for like Devin, just like doing video editing for him, I learned a lot about video businesses from him. So he's like the type of person who's equipped me better if I ever did venture out to start a business like his. Just freelancing for him has helped equip me knowing how to do that, even like the budgets that he has and how he approaches people and how he talks through things, how he sells. He usually sells multiple deliverables, not just focusing on one particular project. Kind of has a whole package. He tries to get as much done with as little time as he possibly can, to try to help people feel like they're accomplishing a lot with little. And does a very good job of doing that, and and navigating those relationships, and working reciprocally with businesses and all of this. So it's been a big blessing just to partner on a couple of things, and then just to kind of sponge and start absorbing things that someday might push me into that.
No, that's super smart.
We'll
that
see.
You're just like wanting to like learn before maybe you push harder into like doing your own thing, because I feel like you can learn so much just from being a part of something and seeing someone else do it, to where you almost feel like you have the tools when you do make the leap. That's kind of how I felt working from the past company that I was working at. Like, you just feel like I've learned all the tools, and then once you get to that point where you maybe want a new growth opportunity, then you can just make the leap and kind of try it yourself. So well, we've been chatting for quite some time.
What's your longest podcast?
This might be the longest.
That's funny.
Man. So it's close. It's probably
you're at Joe Rogan level all of a sudden.
We're probably like number 2. I used to do podcasts that were like 20 to 30 minutes, and then like, why not just try to like make them as long as someone's willing to talk?
Time to roll out the shrooms and the marijuana and the DMT and do all the Joe Rogan thing. Actually, I don't do any of them actually. I've never. That's funny.
No, this has been awesome. To wrap it up, if you were to leave your last piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be?
My last piece of advice to my younger self? Does that mean I'm like dying?
Yeah.
Or
You're
like I'm
dying.
gonna be dead. Like
All of this, you're dying, and
in
you
like
have,
a minute here.
you have like a grandkid.
Young,
You have,
like me, like my younger self, like me a minute from now.
No, I'm
Like,
talking like I'm talking like if you had
Is
to,
this a threat? I'm
No,
gonna
no.
die, and so I better give to my younger self.
Yeah.
My last piece of advice to my younger self: don't screw it up. No, I'm kidding. What's the best advice you get? I think my dad has some good advice, which is not always advice that I follow. I don't know a lot of unhappy people who are grateful people. Yes. So it seems to be they're finding things to be thankful for in life, and I just the people that I know who are very contented with life tend to be really grateful people. So for my younger self, and then also for my current self, don't forget to look around my world and find things that I'm thankful for, like little stuff like this and everything, and just appreciate it and not move so quickly that you miss it. Just being thankful for things. And I guess another piece of advice I would give my younger self is, there can be the world we live in sometimes has an appetite for an increasingly desire for exposure, to be known. And sometimes your reach in what you do in life does not have to have a million people behind it. And sometimes actually the millions of people who might hop onto your stuff, which has happened to me before on videos or like TikTok, where you reach that kind of exposure. Those aren't the people that are the closest to you when everything is said and done. And they're not the type of people that probably cry at your funeral and like see you through the hardest valleys of your life. And so your friendships are one of the most deepest and sacred things to protect, with real people like around you. So, and I'm rambling again, but one of the little stories that I would remind myself of that is with the Ache tribe. The music that they had and their chants was often recalling the day. And so they have a cadence to a chant, like, and then they would say a phrase. And that phrase was usually recalling their family members, or certain stories about their family members, or just what happened of the day. I'm thankful for this and this. And their music was not really published anywhere because there wasn't this.
No Spotify.
There's no Spotify or anything like this.
Yeah.
So truly their music was for their community. It wasn't a monetary career-based thing. It was just for them and to recall the stories of the people who lived before them. And that's like a precious thing. And there you go.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love it, Matt. Dude, it was a pleasure having you on. Shared some really interesting things about Brazil. And yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah. Let's go snowboarding in a mountain somewhere.
Let's go.